Okay. We'll watch another one first. We'll go to this one first. Wait, what the fuck? What?
Told that many of you suffer from climate anxiety.
Why is it giving me... What? Why is it giving me Polish subtitles? Alright, well this one is, comedian leaves Oxford Union speechless. But the thumbnail was this. Show this speech to a woke person. Now, personally, I don't identify as woke, but some of the dumbasses in my comments would assume that I do.
You will not know this, but I was supposed to be the first non-student speaker for the proposition. I've now been the fourth, which means that I now have to thank all the previous speakers for making my best points for me. And I find that the main reason now that I have left to be in support of the motion is that I am so tired of talking about woke culture. That's why it's gone too far, more than anything else. And I thank the other speakers for making the points for me, because it means I don't have to reiterate the point that no, free speech is not some right-wing reframing of whatever. It's the foundation of Western civilization. Upon this civilization is built, and the Enlightenment values that led to it. I don't have to make the point that has been made by far better people in the past, that the only way to deal with the problem of racism is to treat people on the content of their character and nothing else. And the fact that woke culture seeks to overturn that is a new form of racism that we must all oppose.
What's he talking about? What does that mean? What is he talking about? I quite literally do not understand what he means. Is he talking about, like, critical race theory? Is that what he's, like, trying to pretend is racist? I don't know about that. I don't know about that now. We'll just keep going.
It means also I will not use this opportunity to say I told you so, as someone who spent the last 5 years warning people in the West that if we continue to erode our culture, if we continue to undermine our confidence in Western values, that our enemies like Vladimir Putin will seek to capitalize on it. I will not make any of those points tonight.
I'm gonna name some points. Here are the points that I'm not going to make. That's making the point, though. That's what he did. He's put the idea now into people's heads. That's what making a point is. So yes, he did make the point. If he didn't want to make the point, he wouldn't have said that. I'm just pointing that out. I'm not saying that's a criticism. I'm just letting you know that that's what just happened. That's something that, you know, public speakers will do quite a lot. They'll say, you know, this thing, I'm not going to talk about that. And this thing, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to make the point that this thing exists. And I'm not going to make the point that that thing exists. But by doing that, you know, they are, to a certain degree, making that point. It's probably not as effective as actually talking about it, but it's far more effective than never mentioning it in the first place. And because of that, that counts as making a point. Anyway, I'm not gonna fucking pause every, like, 20 seconds in this one, because that's what I do every time. My videos end up, like, way longer than they need to be.
Instead, I am not going to talk to those of you who already agree with me, which I imagine is most of you. I'm not going to talk to you because I imagine after everything you've heard tonight, you're going to vote for the proposition. I'm going to confess I will take your vote for granted. Tonight, I am the Labour Party and you are the Red Wall. Now, I want to talk to those of you who are woke and who are open to rational argument. A small minority, I accept. Because one of the tenets of wokeness is, of course, that your feelings matter more than the truth. But I believe in you. I believe there are those of you here who are woke, who are open to rational argument, so let me make one. We are told that your generation cares more than any other about one issue in particular, and that issue is climate change. We're told that many of you suffer from climate anxiety. You wish to save the planet. And for tonight, and tonight only, I will join you. I will join you in worshipping at the feet of St. Greta of climate change. Let us all accept right here, right now, that we are living through a climate emergency and our stocks of polar bears are running extremely low. I join you in this view. I truly do. Now, what are we to do about this huge problem facing humanity? What can we in Britain do?
In Britain? In Britain? Maybe start by, like, taxing all of the people that are actually, you know, producing the problem. Start taxing corporations that have very high carbon emissions. That might help. You know, it'd be a start. Obviously, Britain is not the biggest problem. You know, there's plenty of bigger issues, but you know, they're all corporations. They are the biggest carbon emitters. So start taxing them. Bring in a carbon tax. If there isn't one already, you know, if there is, make it bigger. Make them pay more and keep doing it. Keep raising it until, you know, the carbon emissions go down. That's what the problem is. So, you know, why don't we fix it? Why don't we actually do something about it? If this video ends up on YouTube and I can find one, I'll see if I can add a fundraiser to this video for climate change, or I don't know, a fucking petition or something, despite the fact that most petitions are completely useless and actually don't do anything.
We can only do one thing. You know why? This country is responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions, which means that if Britain was to sink into the sea right now, it would make absolutely no difference to the issue of climate change.
Well, it would make 2% of a difference. So that's a lie. It would make 2% of a difference. But yes, I agree. Britain is not the biggest problem. Absolutely. 100% not the biggest problem. That's a fact. That is a fact. I would like to congratulate whoever this guy is. I don't even know his name. He didn't even say his name. What's his name? You know what? Fucking... I'm not gonna even attempt that. Sorry, man. Because I will fuck it up and then I'll look really dumb. So I'm instead gonna pretend that I actually know how to pronounce that, and I'm gonna let everyone in my audience try to guess. Good luck.
You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet.
What? So 30% of CO2 emissions come from China. And then it's the United States, India, Russia, Japan, Germany. You know, there's more than just those two. They are the biggest, by far. But India's pretty far up there, and so is Russia.
Who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet.
Did he say the poor people?
You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America.
Latin America? Why Latin America? Hold on. I'm just gonna open this one up again, because I have to. United States is number 2. Latin America is mostly South America. It's the United States that is the second on the list. So Latin America isn't... I don't know where he's getting that from. Sorry, I forgot to even put it on the screen. Hold on. First of all... Yeah, okay, so here's the first one. China and the US are the top 2. And it's... This is not... What the fuck is this? Where's the... There was like percentages on the screen earlier. Here we go, this one. China makes up nearly 33%, and the United States is nearly 13%. So that's like nearly half of all carbon emissions comes from China and the United States. If you'd like to just take a wee glance at this image here. That, all the green bit, is Latin America. You see this bit up here? That right there is the United States. I have absolutely no idea where this guy got Latin America from. And poor people, sorry, poor people, that's crazy, dude. It's the rich people that don't care. The people who care the most about climate change are middle class. generally speaking, the poor don't care because they don't have enough time to care. Because, they're busy trying to live every day because they're not paid enough. Or they don't have a job because they can't get one. Or they're homeless. Middle class, they have jobs. They're able to sustain themselves most of the time. So they have enough time to worry about the fact that, their bosses are destroying the planet. And their bosses don't care because all they care about is profit. So they don't care, like, if the planet fucking explodes in the next 20 years, which it's most likely not going to do because that's not what climate change is. I don't want to spread misinformation, unlike some people. But they don't care at all because all they care about is the money. They just want profit. More and more profit. That's what's good for them. But anyway, let's get back to the video. Once again, I don't want to keep pausing every couple of seconds because I have an awful habit of doing that.
In America, by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet. No, thank you. No, thank you. It's going to be decided by poor people in Asia and Latin America who don't care about saving the planet.
That's wrong, by the way. Just so everyone's aware, that is a lie. That is false. It's not that poor people don't give a shit. It's that poor people can't give a shit because they have more things to worry about than, 10, 15, 20 years in the future. Because they're worrying about whether or not they'll be able to eat the next day. So it's not that they don't give a shit, it's that they actually can't. Because they have more to worry about. It's also not Latin America. I do want to point that out. It's the United States, USA, where all the white people live.
You know why? Because they're poor. Because they're poor. I come from Russia, which is not a poor country, it's a middle-income country. 20% of households in Russia do not have an indoor toilet. What they have is an outdoor toilet. And I don't mean one of those nice portaloos that we get here. I don't even mean a Glastonbury portaloo. I mean a wooden shack with a hole in the ground that holds a collected fermented memory of the last 10,000 visits. How many of you are going to go home tonight and say, let's rip out our bathroom and erect a Siberian shithouse in the back garden? And if you're not, why should they? 120 million people in China do not have enough food. I don't mean that they don't get dessert, I mean they suffer from malnutrition. That means that their immune system is breaking down because they don't have enough food. You're not going to get them to stay poor.
What has this got to do with climate change? What is he talking about? He's telling people that being poor is bad. Obviously it is, yes. Do you know what causes that? Oh, wait till you hear this one. Capitalism. What? No way, dude. Yes. Uh-huh. So, what do we do about that? Oh, well. I would also like to point out that China is not socialist. Just for the record. It's communist. There is a massive difference. And if you don't know what that difference is, you're not educated enough. So go look that up and use multiple sources, because too many of you fuckers in my comments use one source and then think you're the fucking genius. You gotta use multiple sources and compare them. That's how research works. Let's go a little bit back and we'll hear what he's talking about.
You don't have enough food. You're not going to get them to stay poor. Imagine you're Xi Jinping, the leader of China. When you were 10 years old, there was a revolution, a cultural revolution in your country, and people came and they put your father in prison. Your mother had to denounce him. Your sister killed herself. And you, no longer enjoying the protection of your formerly powerful father, were sent to a village where you lived in a cave house. And here you are, decades later. You have clawed your way up the bloody and greasy pole of Chinese politics to be the undisputed supreme leader of the very Communist Party that destroyed your family. And you know that the main thing you have to do to survive and to stay in power is to deliver the one thing that the people of China want: prosperity, economic growth. Where do you think climate change ranks on Xi Jinping's list of priorities? Eighth.
Yeah, he's just proved his own point wrong. He's not poor. The man who runs China is not poor. I don't know if that's clicked, but, you know, that's crazy, dude.
A third of all children who live in extreme poverty in the world live in India. That means they are starving and dying of preventable disease. Now, about 15 months ago, my wife got pregnant. Not me, because we're old school. And for 9 months, we talked about what our boy would look like, what he might do when he grows up. We looked at baby scans and videos on YouTube about what the fetus looks like at 9 months and 12 months and 20 months. And eventually he was born. And he is this cute little bundle of joy. He's cuter than about 80% of puppies, right? Now, if you said to me that I had a choice, either my son had a serious risk of starving or dying from a preventable disease in the next year, or I could press a button and he would live. He would go to school. He would bring his first girlfriend home. He'd go to university and graduate and become a woke idiot. And then he'd get a job and get married and have children and become a man. But all I have to do is press this button. And for every day of my son's life, a giant plume of CO2 is going to get released into the atmosphere. Now, you're all very young, and most of you are not parents. Let me tell you something. There is not a parent in the world who would not smash that button so hard their hand bled.
He still hasn't made a point, though. What? Like, he said climate change exists. These people are responsible, which is wrong. And then he said, parents care about their kids. That's why, if I had a child, and my options were my child starves, or I release a bunch of CO2 and my child lives. But that's, you know, they aren't the only two options. Sorry, but they aren't the only two options. Do you know why China and America are such massive CO2 emitters? It's not because of the population. It's because of the corporations. You know, the factories. All of that shit. Constantly releasing CO2 into the atmosphere. It's all of that. It isn't the rest of the population that are poor. He started off by talking about toilets. Like, toilets. I have no idea how toilets, are responsible for CO2 emissions, but, you know, toilets, right?
You are not going to get these people to stay poor. You're not even going to get them to not want to be richer. And so, I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one thing we can do in this country to stop climate change, and that is to make scientific and technological breakthroughs that will create the clean energy that is not only clean, but also cheap. And no, thank you. And I want everyone to get home on time today, which is not going to happen. And the only thing that wokeness has to offer in exchange is to brainwash bright young minds like you to believe that you are victims, to believe that you have no agency, to believe that what you must do to improve the world is to complain, is to protest, is to throw soup on paintings.
Okay, I want to say for the record that those motherfuckers that threw soup on the paintings are idiots. They are dumb. They are foolish. They're not changing anything. They didn't change anything. They didn't accomplish anything. I still don't even know who that was. I don't know who did that. I know it was related to some, like, charity or something, and they were protesting, pretty sure, for climate change. It did nothing, because that's not helpful. What's helpful is actually spreading the message about it, you know, giving correct information. And once again, the problem isn't, well, most of the problem isn't us. The majority of where the actual climate change causing issues arise is, that top 1%. All those rich people. I mean, these fuckers literally have planes all to themselves. Literally an entire plane for one person. You don't think that that's emitting CO2? I'm sorry, but it is. There is first class on a plane for a reason. And I'm gonna get into this now because of the whole Elon Musk thing. A little while back, he banned every flight tracking account off of Twitter. That's public information. That is public information. All it was doing was relaying that information to more people on Twitter. And the only reason he got rid of it is because one of them was tracking his plane, his own private jet, for transporting him and his family. And that's it. That's it. Just him and his family. And to be clear, you can travel on a private jet anonymously within the United States of America if you are traveling from one unrestricted airfield to another. You can fly completely anonymously, and it's not tracked, or at least it's not tracked with your name. But if you are flying outside of the US, the flight has your name attached to it. If you don't want that, don't bring a private jet. Get first class on a regular plane. I guarantee you it will not be as bad as you think. If the rest of us have to deal with the cramped, tight space in the middle or the back of the plane, then you can deal with first class. You don't need an entire plane to yourself. It's crazy. So yeah, it's the 1% at the top, controlling all of the CO2 emissions. Well, not all of them, but like 80% of them. And then obviously, cars and shit, they do emit quite a bit. But it's crazy to say that the poor people are responsible. That's insane. Also, Latin America? Are you crazy? Latin America wasn't even on the list of the top 10 countries for CO2 emissions. Pretty sure Iran is higher than Latin America. I wouldn't even be surprised if the UK is higher than Latin America, except for the fact that Latin America is bigger, So that would probably give it a slight edge. But I don't know, man. That's crazy to say that poor people are responsible for climate change. That's insane.
And we on this side of the House are not on this side of the House because we do not wish to improve the world. We sit on this side of the House because we know that the way to improve the world is to work, is to create, it is to build. And the problem with woke culture is that it's trained too many young minds like yours to forget about that. Thank you very much.
That's insane. That was insane. That was crazy. The entire thing was based off a lie. Well, essentially a lie. That poor people are the most responsible for climate change. And the two biggest producers of CO2 emissions are China and Latin America. It makes sense now why this guy's a comedian and not, like a political commentator or whatever. That's insane, dude. Oh my god.